The Detroit Lions finished the 2021 season 3-13-1, and despite how bad that sounds, it is fair to say for the first time in a while, they have a very bright future. It's easy to say, well, they finished with just 3 wins and write them off, but there is a lot more to their 2021 season than just a measly 3-13-1 record. And in today's video, we are going to deep dive into how we can rebuild the Lions and set them up for not just a good 2022, but for a very bright future. So without further ado, let's begin. When looking at the 2021 Lions, it's easy to get discouraged, or if you're an NFL fan, not really think twice about the Lions for finishing with the second worst record in the league, or as simple-minded as this may sound, having Jared Goff with not great weapons at quarterback and really just move on to the next thought of your day or the next thought about the NFL. But the reality is this team not only finished the year 3-3 during their final 6 games, but they were in several other games, and you could argue they should have won more than they did. It took the Ravens a 66-yard record-breaking field goal to beat them, and the Vikings, the first time they played, a 40-second game-winning drive, which required a 54-yard field goal from Greg Joseph to also beat Detroit. Sure, they had their moments like a 44-6 loss to the Eagles and a 38-10 loss in Denver, but those games occasionally happen when you're rebuilding, and the Lions are, by every definition, rebuilding. And when you look at the 2021 Lions, their roster relative to their competition was not good, and they had less talent on the field representing their organization in every game, and there was a reason they were not favored in a single game this past year. So in this rebuild video, the first thing I want to discuss is the upcoming draft. We will get the free agency, I just want to discuss the draft because I'm sure everyone is thinking about it. I am under the belief currently that Jacksonville is a bad franchise. As not really shocking there, right? Back-to-back number 1 picks do not happen by accident, and having said that, I think they will ultimately choose a franchise tackle to protect Trevor Lawrence, and that player would be Evan Neal. The last thing of the Jags I'll say is they need playmakers everywhere, so it's not like if they draft Kayvon or Hutchinson, they're going to go from the number 1 pick to the number 32 pick, especially with where their franchise is. Now, with the Jags selecting Evan Neal, this leaves the Lions the choice between 2 pass rushers to lead Dan Campbell's defense for the next decade between Kayvon Thibodeaux and Aiden Hutchinson. And there's going to be a lot behind the scenes we as fans do not get to see, like the pre-draft interviews and private workouts, but eventually I do believe Dan Campbell will be sold on the grit and the hometown guy in Aiden Hutchinson, and I most certainly think Dan will sell that pick to the fans. I mean, he really doesn't have to, but I think he will on top of it. Neither him nor Kayvon is a bad pick, but I don't think Lions fans would let Brad Holmes take Kayvon over Aiden after the year he had. It makes too much sense, and the one thing I want to make clear is it's not like Kayvon is Chase Young 2.0, will have 15+ sacks right out of the gate, and me saying Aiden Hutchinson is the next Kayvon Chason. It's not like there's that big of a difference between the guys, and so we give the Lions their pass rusher of the future in Aiden Hutchinson to be the face of Dan Campbell's defense. Now, for the Lions in free agency, they will have a lot of money to spend, as kind of think about it for a sec. Who do they have on their roster to really sign and lock up long-term to take a lot of their cap space? Really, no one right now, as Penei Sewell just finished his rookie year, TJ Hawkinson is on his rookie deal, and they locked up linemen Taylor Decker and Frank Ragnow. So in free agency, one of 2 players we'd like to get is either Allen Robinson or Juju Smith-Schuster. They are similar players in the big-bodied, typical, possession receivers, and are both free agents. Getting Allen versus Juju would be a double positive because they would sign him from a division rival while also improving their team. Also, this is kind of a fun fact, Allen is from Michigan, and they would actually be able to target Allen Robinson. And you can sell yourself on both Allen and Juju because remember, Juju is just 25 years old and will turn 26 late in the 2022 season. And I'll address this now. If you think Juju would be scared to play for someone like Dan Campbell or whatever stereotypes they are, with the TikToks or whatever, please know he's played for Mike Tomlin for the last 5 years in Pittsburgh. There would be no problem there. So you give Detroit a receiving trio in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who very quietly finished the year with 90 catches for 900 yards in what was an insanely productive rookie season, a veteran in Juju Smith-Schuster, TJ Hawkinson, and then of course they'd have a great running back in DeAndre Swift. One thing that must be noted is this is a rebuild and not a go from the bottom of the barrel to the penthouse in a single year. And if they go the Juju route here, what's also important to note is this could be a 5 or 6 year free agent acquisition rather than a 1-year deal. Sure, Juju may sign a 1 or 2 year deal initially in Detroit, but he may be productive enough, love the people like he did in Pittsburgh, and decide to stay. I have not addressed quarterback yet because I do think Goff will be the QB in 2022, but I do think they will move on from him after next year. Now, currently there is some talk about them potentially drafting someone like Kenny Pickett out of Pitt, Matt Corral out of Ole Miss, or Malik Willis from Liberty, and even trading back up in the first round to do so, because it is generally implied that they will not take one of those guys number 2 overall. But what my reply or rebuttal to that would be, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes were given lengthy contracts for their jobs, and 6-year contracts at that, and they know it's going to be a long rebuild, they as in the Fords, and they know the roster right now is not talented. What's important is the players have more than bought in, and they are seriously competing, unlike the previous era, unlike the Fat Matt era, and the talent will eventually come. Brad Holmes did a great job, and also Dan Campbell and the scouts for that matter, because the credit does not strictly go to GM Brad Holmes. They did a great job in the 2021 draft by nailing 2 long-term starters in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell, and already have Hawkinson and Swift. So if you bring in a rookie quarterback in 2023 like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, plus like we said a Juju or Allen Robinson, this is beginning to look like a much, much more attractive situation than Jared Goff 6 months ago walking in 2021 to a Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, and Quintez Cephas receiver room. It is about getting one piece at a time, and with this, we now have a very formidable offense to start 2023 with a high draft pick quarterback, a good running back, tight end, and now wide receiver core. Now, one possibility I want to put out there is Jameson Williams tore his ACL in the national championship against Georgia, a prolific receiver from Alabama for those that may not know. There's a possibility he slips in the draft. Well, he will, it's just a matter of how much. But if he is there for the Lions' second first-round pick, or even maybe within the first 4 or 5 spots of that, they have to take him because this is a top 10 to 15 player in the draft and would fill a position of need. Now, a potential trio of Amon-Ra, Juju, and if the draft falls right for them, Jameson Williams plus TJ, DeAndre, and Jamal Williams entirely fixes this offense outside the quarterback position. Now, addressing the defense outside of Aiden Hutchinson. The Lions will need help at linebacker, we know that, and really the secondary as well outside of corner Amani Oruwariye, who had a tremendous year this past year. As a matter of fact, he's very underrated. There are a million ways they could go, and what I'd love for them to do, though will not happen, is somehow, and I don't care how, but trade up for Nakobe Dean, the linebacker out of Georgia, and have him in Hutch for a decade. Would be wonderful. However, I think a good get for them early in the second round would be Jordan Davis out of Georgia, the defensive tackle, who's 6'6", 340 pounds, and could play next to Aiden. They took defensive tackle Levi Onwuzurike out of Washington last year. Apologies if I butchered that, I don't think I did. But a year later, Levi has been a disappointment. Now, a few targets I like in the third round for them would be Kingsley, the edge rusher from South Carolina, or Jaquan Brisker, a safety who I very much expect to rise in the draft process from Penn State. Now, the most important part to note here is this draft process and this model to get Juju, then Jameson Williams, would all be stepping stones for them to eventually get a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud type player. But as I kept going further and further into this rebuild, there's a few things. 1, I absolutely love this team if this is the way they go about it. And 2, who's to say Jared Goff couldn't get them on the brink of the playoffs with this specific team? They went 3-3 down the final 6 games, and in those games, granted Goff played nearly 4 of them, but he was 3-1 as a starter with an impressive 9-2 touchdown ratio for a 16-game pace that has him at 36 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. So after having done all of this, from Aiden to Jameson to Juju, Jordan Davis, and Jaquan Brisker, this Lions team really isn't all that far off from competing in big-time games, and maybe if they play their cards right in 2022, a postseason appearance under the guidance of head coach Motor City Dan Campbell. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I enjoyed making this video. And now is the time I ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would truly mean the world. Let me know if this is the type of content you guys would like as we enter the off season. But most importantly, until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.